Welcome to another edition of Souq Business Landscape, where we bring you stories that matter from Africa and beyond. I am Olumide Sokoya, and of course, I have with me
Moyosore Adebiyi. Glad to be here again.
Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. You're welcome.
and the Almighty.
Osama Zaid Hausa is my name.
All right, welcome very much, gentlemen. As we begin with the Kaduna state, where residents from 12 local government areas are demanding transparency over 350 million naira World Bank loan after years of fund were secured. Abandoned roads and broken promises leave many communities questioning how the money was actually spent. That will take you across borders to a landmark energy deal. The United Arab Emirates, UAE, joins a $25 billion trans-African gas pipeline that will stretch from Nigeria to Morocco and eventually power homes and industries across Europe. And in a moment, of course, in that same moment, it marks a turning point for the Catholic Church. History is made at the Vatican as the first American Pope, Leo XIV, is elected, bringing a missionary spirit and global vision to the papacy. These are the stories driving development, accountability, and global leadership right here on Souq Business Landscape. So if I might start with Moyo.
Yeah.
If you look at the three issues that we'll be discussing today, which one really catches your attention?
I would say it's the loan accountability situation in Kaduna, because it is a national problem. When we talk about debt transparency, it's something that we don't really always see the fruits of what these monies are supposed to be about. And especially at the state level now, where they're getting much more funding, I think there has to be a more transparent oversight over how these monies are used. So yeah, that one catches my attention, definitely.
All right, and Doctor?
Well, but just to debunk some of the claims, and I think it's important for us as people to follow, train as conversations have been had. Yeah, this loan was not taken today, and I don't know why the protest is happening today and why people are raising concern. Because as the people, we must be able to separate politics away from what are real. Now, you understand what is happening in Kaduna at the moment. And there are a lot of issues because, of course, the former governor has exited the All Progressive Party. And therefore, we must need to put some searchlight and see how to give dog a bad name so that, of course, the dog can qualify for hanging. And I think these are some of the issues that we must have to be very careful about, especially when we look at some issues when headlines like this are coming out. The truth is that that loan was taken by El-Rufai to build what he called the new Kaduna city. The question is, was that project started? Were there investment in that project? Is there any audit report that says that, of course, the 350 million that was taken was not sunk in that thing? It's El-Rufai in recent and modern history who had built a new capital. We can leave all the shenanigans and the things that are going on in the politics, but these are the facts that we must all speak to, because that loan was specifically meant to be used for that renewed city. And of course, it started a project, and there was a massive investment that El-Rufai was building a modern Kaduna city, because the current Kaduna capital cannot be modernized. So he needed to build a complete new city, which he invested in. And so
The real question is, did he?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he
All
did.
right, we'll get to that.
Yes, he did.
I like
All right,
the
John. So
I like the
let's look at this pipeline project, $25 billion pipeline project. Do you see a lot of benefits for Nigeria? What does Nigeria stand to gain from this pipeline?
I love the pipeline project. It's business. It's a means of taking your product, Nigerian product, our own product, to the market. My only issue here is ownership of the pipeline project. Now, let's go back. Precedence has always shown us that there's always a problem when we have co-ownership of some particular projects. Take typical example, the North Line Atlantic project, Russia power project. Now, that has been destroyed twice. But they know that they are directly trying to hit Russia. It's solely owned by them. Now, in another country, which happens to be a good business-oriented, they see opportunity and they go there. It's dropping 25 billion. Is it going to be ours at the end of the day? Who's going to control it? That is what matters. Take for what is happening again. Trump wake up one morning and say the channels are going to be renamed and say he's going to open up some particular countries that they did stuff for and take it back. All that is still in quote, but they are following through. How are we going to have control over this pipeline with this amount of money coming from outside this country?
All right,
that's just my fear.
Thank you very much. So we'll quickly go on a short break, and when we come back, we have a whole lot on our table, and when we come back, we'll dissect. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Souq Business Landscape. We'll begin with our first story. Residents of 12 local government areas are raising concerns over the alleged unfair distribution of a $350 million World Bank loan secured under the leadership of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai, despite ongoing repayment for the loan. Community leaders and residents claim that no roads have been completed in their areas, and several projects were initiated have been abandoned. The affected local government areas include Benin, Gwari, Giwa, Jaba, Kagago, Kajuru, Kauru, Kudan, Makafi, Sanga, Soba, and Zagan Kataf, many of which are among the poorest in the state. Now, a report indicates that while road projects were supported to improve infrastructure and, of course, boost the economy, most of the initiatives in these areas were either never completed or were left in a state of despair. So I'll start with Doctor. Okay. You are making an assertion that former Governor Nasir El-Rufai had good intentions when he secured this loan.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to say is that we must be able to separate politics from facts. Because we're in the season of politics and there's a whole lot of things that's happening within the space. And so some of the kind of names that you say may not really be speaking to the facts. They may just be things that, of course, you want to blackmail some certain people because you think that some things were not well done. And I think the proper people to speak is, when Sani came in and the problem between him and El-Rufai started, which of course led to the exit of the former governor from the ruling of Progressive Congress, was the fact that they said they were going to probe him. We're still waiting for the probation. And of course, the committee of inquiry was set up to look at the spending of El-Rufai. But you need to do all of that before you can actually come out to say, well, because this money were budgeted actually, they were project specific. Now, somebody needs to come out to say, oh, this project that was invested in was not done, not completed. Yeah. So, but in terms of distribution, it's also, yeah, of course, we can talk about marginalization in terms of the citing of projects, of course, which is, of course, again, germane to citizens and residents of a particular state to say, okay, why is this thing concentrated in one place? But that's a different ballgame. That may not speak to that there were issues in terms of the expenditure of the loan that was secured. So there are two facts that have to be separated. The fact that the projects were not cited in your area. Yes, of course, we know that, for example, in Nigeria, we have huge infrastructure deficit. The government is looking, I think Augusto did a report some years ago and said Nigeria will need to spend between 150 to 80 to 150 billion dollars annually for 30 years to be able to meet up the infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, and that's a huge figure. Now, when you put that and situate them within states, you will know that 350 million is a drop in an ocean and cannot guarantee infrastructure access to the entire local governments in Kaduna State. Only some people will benefit, but how we determine who starts to benefit that's a different ballgame. And of course, that's where power comes to play.
But as at when the loan was, before the loan was secured, their debt profile stood at about $231 million. So they had already an existing debt, and yet you're going to collect another one.
Yeah, because there won't be any scarcity in terms of argument as whether people should take loan in Nigeria. Because whether you like it or not, for us to be able to kickstart our development, we need a lot of funds. And of course, those funds, there's no way you can harvest them in your country. Take, for example, after the Second World War, and of course, Europe was greatly devastated, there's what is regarded as the Marshall Plan, which was a plan put in place by the Foreign Secretary in America to rebuild Europe, and that was to take place for over a period of 25 years. And what was happening was that money was consistently pumped into Europe to rebuild all the infrastructure that were decayed. So till tomorrow, when you talk about international relations, you cannot forget that name, Marshall, because that plan was what brought Europe back again. But it came all through loan, all through grants that was given to Europe to be able to build themselves, and they created market where they could trade with each other, and of course eventually left to what's called EU today. That's in Europe. So what I'm saying in essence is, yes, 350 million, it looks big, but it is a drop in an ocean compared to the infrastructure requirements that people are talking about in Kaduna State.
All right, Moyo.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't like to, conflate issues too much, right? The bone of contention right here now is about the 350 million naira. Of course, as against what he said, it's a drop in the ocean, but that money was meant to do something, right? And that's why I keep saying there needs to be more transparency on how these monies are spent. The World Bank or whoever, where they source these monies from, don't just appear. Right? The DMO is going to advise the federal government. The Attorney General is going to provide legal review on the agreement and all. So why is it that when we are getting these monies, there are so many people involved, and then when the money arrives, there's nobody to give us information anymore? These are things that we should talk about, right? So according to reports, people have reached out to the current governor and the ministries, and nobody is saying anything. That is a problem. That is one of the major problems here right now. So again, I mean, whether it's politically motivated or not, there has to be accountability, there has to be transparency, and these are the things that we should talk about more.
Chooks, now it's been reported that 85 to 87 of this loan was spent on current expenditure. What do you have to say about that?
Spent on government's current expenditure.
Yes.
But I can't bet you that was not what was on paper when the loan was applied for. Definitely. And when it was approved. And those that approved the loan also and gave the loan knew quite well that it was not going to be used for what they were giving it.
True.
So now it's that same circle of who is robbing who. They know they are going to benefit. Even if you don't pay, they are holding you to something. They have something that they will make you do on their behalf. Now let's go to those that are complaining right now. Will I say complain? Or those that are opening up and voicing out. This is Southern Kaduna. Most of those local governments are all in Southern Kaduna. So you see the divide between these other people, and they say, okay, see what is happening there is not as bad as what is happening here. So how can you get these people to work together? They have a whole lot. Doc was talking about political issues. The current governor, when he started his fight, quarrel, in quote, with El-Rufai, he came up with a document and also showed us some financial spending of El-Rufai and allegedly indicted him. So what has happened since then? These are things we need to talk about. $350 million. Doc, is a big money.
It is a lot. That's 560 billion naira. That's 560 billion naira.
It looks big on paper.
On spending too. Yes, when you spend it,
but you see, the point I'm making is simple. We live in an environment where what we feed on is blackmail. And except that you become very, very open-minded, you will believe the lie for the truth. And that is the point that I want us to be able to separate. You see, people just come up to say, oh, we were neglected. Who are they complaining to now? The current governor. That, oh, the whole of Kaduna State is paying back the money. But there are no hints of allegations here that this money, somebody put it in his pocket. And that is what I'm saying. What was the loan meant for? What did the National Assembly approve for El-Rufai before he took the loan? El-Rufai said he wanted to build a new city.
Education also.
It's education,
a new city.
healthcare services.
Brand new city.
A brand new city.
A brand new city.
Which did he
Now, when you get to, you see, it's unfortunate. I'm not speaking and I'm not holding forth for El-Rufai. He has a spokesperson who will be able to talk for him.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, as we speak today, there's no other state that has done or made that feat. You know the way London was built, with sewage system put in place, electricity in place, water supply in place before building start. El-Rufai laid that foundation in Kaduna State.
But the structures were not the ones on top of the structures were not built.
You see, the truth of the matter is development, they say, is something that is cumulative.
Okay, but can we hold people accountable and responsible?
Yeah, but you see, that is a
time,
point.
not just
No.
also with time.
That is the
money.
point I am making.
Okay.
Because what we are seeing is speculations. What we are seeing is speculation. Nobody has come out with hard data on how this money was spent. And I can tell you, because these are gazetted, there are government documents to show how this money came, what fraction of the budget it was. So government has the data.
But
and now, especially now that you have somebody who is an anti-El-Rufai as the governor, now those data will be flying on the streets. But you see, what I'm just saying is that we are deliberately scandalizing somebody to score some point. And you must factor that into this conversation. Because at the end of the day, and this is the problem that we have had over time in this country, where trials are done on social media, phone stolen on pages of newspaper, on television table where analysis is done, we will decide it, and at the end of the day, people will say, oh, they said this man stole money, but we didn't see the fact of it.
Doc, can I ask a question?
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If a child is put on a table for appendix operation, the doctor knows it's going to take 3, 4, 5 hours. If it's a brain surgery, you know it's 24 hours, max. Some other operations, okay, if it goes beyond 2 days, this person is going to die. It's the same thing when it comes to construction. You know the time frame to start a project and finish the project. And that is what you submit when you're collecting monies. Why is it that when it comes to Nigeria, this time frame, we never respect it?
No. You see, that is what I'm saying. These details are in there. That's what I'm saying. What we are dealing with here is speculation. In short, as a matter of fact, when Governor Sani came up with the fact that they were looking into the papers of El-Rufai, and I said, well, he was very happy to get to the court.
What we are dealing here is abandoned projects.
No, wait. He who alleges
must prove.
Has responsibility and duty to prove that what you are alleging actually happened. You see, take for example, this building where you are a complex, over 32-story building. Now, if they tell you what gets into the foundation alone, before you can put a brick on it, it's money. Now, has somebody gone out to evaluate how much money that went into the foundation before you are talking about the finished product? Because you look at this project, we are talking about timeline. That we are going to build a modern city, you are not going to build it in one budget cycle. So what they should be able to do is the quantum of work that is done in this city. What's its value?
Good.
Compared to the money that is released. Do you have the data?
I understand your perspective, but I also think that we're also making excuses for El-Rufai. If you are going to
El-Rufai, it's a general.
It's actually a general thing.
We have abandoned projects.
Because we're reading this and people are saying, children are now playing on half-gridded roads, equipment are rusting all over the place. At the heart of all of this, right? If somebody says, "Oh, you did something," again, Politics is a call to service. This is not, we're not running a business somewhere. This is not profit-based. You must understand that you're serving the people. So if somebody is complaining that this is what, you need to come out yourself and say, this is what happened, this is what I did. You can't blame us that, oh, there are no hard facts. What are the facts that he has provided, or his team, or the administration has provided?
He doesn't need to provide.
Why doesn't he though?
No. You see, you are protected, for example, Moyo, by the Freedom of Information Act, to go to Kaduna and say, I want to see the record of this loan that's taken and how it was expended. The law permits you to get that. So you can't expect El-Rufai to come to the street and be indicting himself.
Oh,
somebody has to
you just said indicting himself.
Yes, that's what it is.
No, it's not supposed to be indicting if he's coming out.
No.
He's supposed to clear the air and give us some clarity. That's what transparency is all about. That's what accountability is about.
No, but he has done that.
How?
And he can't continue to come out every day. You see, that's what I said to you. When Sani, the current governor of Kaduna State, came out to say they are studying the documents of El-Rufai.
They are still studying it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying to you. So if you say you are studying my document, I don't need to preempt you. So that's merely preemptive and speculative. Now let the man who is alleging prove that, oh, this existed. Then the man has the right to speak.
Again.
I don't think it is his place to be answering to speculations. He should be able to say, okay, yes, we have seen that this has happened in Kaduna State. This was a massive fraud. We are in court. We are going to prosecute this. And then, of course, the man can go before the court and say whether he did or he did not do.
This is also more than just Uber Sali. This is about the people, right? Do we not care about public distrust? Do we not care about these things? We don't. Is that what we're saying here now?
Can we also come from the side of the Southern Kaduna? Because this is majorly coming from their side.
Yeah. I mean, I really, it's about inequity in the distribution of the funds. They can't share the money, the same money for everybody. It's just normal. It's going to be based on needs. So that's why I'm not even particularly bothered about that. But I'm saying that if people on the streets are saying these things, I think we owe them a bit of service to clear the air.
I don't like speaking to politics. I'm giving you a little dose of that politics. So that you understand where this conversation is coming from. You see, if you glean the media today, you see everybody feel that behind the crisis that was in Kaduna State was sponsored and prosecuted by Nasiru El-Rufai. That's a narrative. It's a narrative. And whether you like it or not, and when you also read in between the lines today, that you see, they say, oh, Sani is pro Southern Kaduna. And all the efforts that he has made as governor is almost rubbished. But like I said, you see, development is incremental. You can't develop a whole space in one day. You have to start in one place. In short, as a matter of fact, you start from your father's house. They call it the Nehemiah principle in the Bible. You build the front of your house first before you go to build the front of other people's house. So, if that is the approach, El-Rufai has done his own. The current governor will need to do his own. After 8 years he leaves. Another governor will come to do his own. And in 100 years, like they say,
everybody must have built their
father's compound. Rome was not built in a day.
Doctor, this particular trend has been happening, whereby a certain administration comes in and they say, oh, this is the debt that I met. He goes, he does his own thing, he leaves, and another person comes and meets another. Can't there be some sort of legislation?
I wish I could be speaking for my state.
Because
in 2018 elections in my state, my governor took $6 billion from World Bank for a rice farm in Agbede.
6 billion.
Yes.
$6 billion.
$6 billion or 6 billion naira.
For a rice farm in Agbede. And I remember during that campaign, they were asking Mr. Governor, you took a loan for a farm. We have not seen a grain of rice. He said it was a failed project.
Boldly.
So we can boldly...
Yeah, I'm not in doubt that people are doing some of all these things. But I'm always saying that because we're talking about the data from Kaduna State, and I said we have to be very circumspect so that we don't mix up politics with fact. Because the season that we are right now is people are seeking legitimacy, and people are looking for, like they say, you don't really care what you use to kill your enemy. The most important thing is that your enemy is dead. So that is what you will have to be careful about, even as analysts, as journalists, so that we're not speaking the voice or the mind of other people who has an ulterior motive. And I feel that if these things are plain on the table, it's not today we are seeing political prosecution in Nigeria. Our current president today, there was nothing that EFCC under Nuhu Ribadu didn't do to indict him because somebody wanted to win Lagos at all costs. So all these conversations, we must understand how politics shape the narrative around the environment. I think that's the point I am making. I'm not holding brief for L5 or any other person for that matter.
I think the bone of contention here speaks about accountability.
Yes, yes.
That is what the people are asking for. That is what we all are saying, accountability. In a situation whereby you know that if you take X, Y, Z, you would have to give an account of how you spent X, Y, Z. But if there's some sort of blanket immunity or something like that, that you can take X, Y, Z, just like you said, your governor said it was a failed project. That's his defense.
It failed. So,
and he went
instead has to pay for because, of course, it was not a bank-free, interest-free loan like the Islamic bank loan that when project failed, they will say, okay, we share liabilities. But this one is a commercial loan, and then, of course, the project failed, the state pays for it. Those things happen, I can agree with you. You see, for me...
Has someone been jailed?
What is the anti-graft agency doing?
When we say those things happen, then that means it's normal.
We have given up to the Lord.
Whose village has been touched?
Who is going to
on
be
this?
jailed?
That is where the issue is.
You see, there's a story told in the Bible. A certain woman was caught in the act of adultery. And they brought the woman before Jesus, and they said, this woman was caught in the very act. The Lord said we should stone. And Jesus faced the ground and was writing something on the ground. And he looked up and said, if you have not done anything, cast the first stone. And he was writing. By the time he looked up, everybody has gone.
I appreciate the Bible quotes, but not all of us are Christians. Personally, for me, I'm not Christian. I'm not Jesus. I might be a Christian, but I'm not Jesus. I think that if people are going to mismanage,
the point I'm making is simple.
What you're saying, nobody is righteous.
No.
But that's not an excuse to say. Me, I am.
Some people are righteous. Everybody speak for your community.
Let's not speak for ourselves.
Because we have not put a searchlight on you. And you see, this is the
righteousness we are talking here is stealing public funds.
Yes,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, because you have not had the opportunity.
And also, I will say,
they have not been kept in your custody. That's why
Nigerians have this problem of something happens. They will say, "Oh, this other person did it." Just because somebody else did it, or because it is widespread, does not mean it is acceptable, right? You cannot take money that is meant for so many people. We look at statistics and stuff like that, but this affects real human beings' lives. You cannot just say stuff like that. So we should just absolve them and say, nobody is righteous. No, that's not how it works. Somebody has to pay. Somebody has to be held accountable.
Yeah, but that is when the person who is going to hold somebody accountable. That's the point I'm making. If you're going to equity, your hands must be very clean.
So you're saying who is going to hold?
Come clean hand. And this is I had a conversation some months back, and I was telling somebody during the last election that there were a lot of people who were not well known. We had 19 candidates, and only 3 candidates were very popular. And I asked somebody, why was that so?
They had money to spend.
They the only one had money to spend. So the truth of the matter is that that's the nature of our politics as we speak today.
All right,
I guess we're at an impasse here.
You might say. So let's move on to our next story. United Arab Emirates joins $25 billion Africa-Europe gas pipeline project. The United Arab Emirates has joined a major project to build a gas pipeline connecting Nigeria to Morocco, which will eventually reach Europe. The pipeline is expected to cost $25 billion and has received a significant support from key financial organizations, including IDB, OPEC Fund, EIB, and the UAE. Morocco's Minister of Energy, Leila Ben Ali, confirmed that UAE's involvement marks a major step forward in the project pipeline, named Africa Atlantic Gas Line Pipeline, which will stretch across African nations, bringing increased trade, energy access, economic growth. It would also connect Nigeria's gas network to Morocco, southern city of Dakhla, and then head to North Europe. With over 400 million people living along this route, the pipeline aims to promote regional integration and industrial growth, providing power to homes and businesses across the continent. Construction will take place in phases, starting with connections between Morocco, Senegal, Mauritania, Ghana, and Ivory Coast. The project has already completed feasibility studies and engineering designs, with China's Steel Group awarded the contract to supply the pipes. Once finished, the 6,800-kilometer pipeline will become the world's longest offshore gas line pipeline. So I'll start with Chooks. This is really huge. This will create a lot of jobs. This will bring opportunities and all that. Do you see any demerit in this?
Well, when you say it's huge, it's beyond huge. This is humongous. And two things are involved. I see positivities all through. Now, another issue we should be looking at is politics. We should know right from the start that your competitors and the West won't just sit and watch. It's natural, it's human nature. So what are we on our own side putting into place? We can't fight them. How can we placate them? How can we make sure that, okay, the product is coming from us, we own this particular project. How can we do business together? Because if that doesn't happen, then in quote, somewhere there will be a sabotage. That is for sure. But how are this being worked out? That's one. Then two, how is Nigeria going to own the rights to this pipeline with this amount of investment coming from outside?
And countries.
What rights are we giving away? And countries involved. That's two. The last one I will say before I leave this particular thing is the gas that is coming from there. Have we sold, it 20 years or 10 years or 5 years ahead? When are we going to start profiting after this project is done? These are just questions that are just ringing in my head.
Moyo, over to you.
I mean, you know, it's great. You know, it's going to be good for so many countries, not just us. But again, I don't like to be a pessimist, but, you know, we have to ask ourselves, you know, this project in question, would it have, you know, environmental issues? Because it's going to come from the Niger Delta, from Brass Island. You know, all the issues we face with oil spillage and stuff like that. What are we going to do? And are the communities going to benefit from this as well? It's not just business. There's always a human angle to everything. You know, so we have to look at that as well. But this is great. I mean, we have over 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in our reserves. So at least that's proven. So there could be more. So it's good that, you know, we're doing something with it. And this is money. It's business, people are going to get jobs. You know, infrastructure is going to be better. So this is good. Yeah. All
right, Doctor, if you look at all the promises that were made regarding our refinery and all that, nothing to write about. Do you think this gas line project would come to fruition, considering how much has been spent in the Port Harcourt refinery and all that? Do you actually think that we can really achieve this? And also putting into consideration pipeline vandalism.
Well, the project will succeed, let me be upfront.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's not a Nigerian project.
Yes.
Okay. Nigeria only own the raw gas. The pipeline belongs to Morocco. It's not a Nigerian project. The $25 billion is given to Morocco and not to Nigeria. The people doing the feasibility studies, they are Moroccans, not Nigerians.
Yes, that's true.
They are only tapping into our resource. So the question you will be asking, if you have to rephrase it, is would this be another crude gas that is going into Europe? Because you understand it, especially if you know the politics of the North Africans. I was in Morocco last year, and we're having this conversation in the street because Morocco is building already an underwater tunnel that is connecting Morocco to the other side of Spain. The project is on advanced phase. And this is because I remember speaking to a friend of mine who is in Moroccan and said to me, and he said, you know, you guys are so blessed. We don't have anything. The only thing we have is head.
That's sad.
And unfortunately, we have everything under the ground. We don't have the head.
Do we really don't have the head? Or
That is the side of it. So how do you prove to me you have a head?
We have the head. It's just that those that we decide to elect don't come with head.
No. No. Leaders are taken from the midst of their people.
That's what I'm saying. Those that we decide to elect don't have the head.
The people we have been electing
have the head.
The people we have been electing since 1919, when the first elected principle came into being in this country. I'm not talking 1960. I'm talking about 1919.
Did we all agree to the 1919 election?
From 1919 till date, we have not been able to get voting rights. And you sit on this table and say we have a head.
Definitely we do have
No,
head.
we don't. So, see, we don't have. See, let's not play with words. We don't have. Because if you have head, we cannot be sitting in the midst of this plenty and be this poor with your head.
Then there's a problem with the head.
There's something wrong with the head. It's mentally not right.
Or if there's a
head, there's a
problem on the head.
No,
so it is the problem on the head that we need to deal with.
Good. Let's look at the problem with the head. Not that there's no head. There are heads.
There are heads.
Yes.
All right. So, Doctor, now another question I would like to ask. From what you have said, it seems as if Morocco stands to gain more from this deal. And just like he said, he asked the question, have Nigeria sold even 5 years forward or not? Because from what you're saying now.
I was in the city of Morocco. I was dumbfounded. Morocco is as beautiful as United Arab Emirates, Dubai. From Marrakesh to Casablanca, to their city capital. You think you are in Europe. The roads are clean. So, when you look at a people, then you can be able to proximate. And that is why you see, they don't too associate with us. They don't, you see, people in North Africa, they don't see us as their brother.
They don't.
Because the level of profligacy in this side of Africa is horrible. And so nobody will want to identify willingly with a prodigal son.
Hold on. Who happens to be the prodigal son?
$1 billion question.
Yeah. You go to Sudan and find out.
No, you have to figure out who exactly is the prodigal son.
Go to Sudan and find out.
I think we know the answer to that.
Go to Burkina Faso. Go to Senegal. Come to Nigeria and find out and know who is the prodigal son.
Okay.
All right. So from what Doctor has said, do you think Nigeria actually stands to gain something?
This is one of those same issues when Doc will say we sign papers on personal interest and not on national interest. We now get to ask these same questions again. When this business came, when this deal came, who were those that signed it?
2016. No, those who were in government.
2016.
Call names. You don't need to swallow it. I don't know if you understand. Who were those that signed it? What did they sign on those dotted lines? What amount of rights did they sign out? These are things we can't run away from.
Yeah.
We can't run away from it.
Moyo.
Oh, well, I think they've practically they have practically said it all. But if I'm going to say something nice, hopefully it's going to add to our
GDP. Anyhow,
yeah.
Even if it's 20 million,
and let's not collect something, and let's not just have it sitting down there and having people just
like we say,
like. And also, it might add some greater influence to our global energy diplomacy. So maybe to add to our global profile or something. Yes.
Back to you, Doctor. So I'd like to ask this question also. It's been said that the route this pipeline is going to take will benefit the communities and businesses around them. Do you think that is true?
Of course, there's no doubt it will. What happened is, as construction starts from Senegal to Morocco, then Cote d'Ivoire to Ghana, all those people in those houses, they are going to make a lot of benefit out of it. And then, of course, by the time they connect Cote d'Ivoire to Ghana, to Senegal, then before they can now come to start investment in Nigeria side. You see, even in the calculation, we are at the end. We are at the end of the calculation because by that time, maybe our head would have reset somehow.
Before you move, there is this picture. I can't remember who took that picture. It's a pipeline in East Africa that crosses a very big slum, an oil pipeline. And each time that picture come out, they show young kids and children, some not well dressed, but a whole amount of refuge, and they are playing on top of wealth. I hope this is not what we are going to see. Now, a lot of monies will be moving around during construction. Now, I ask, after construction, what happens to those communities?
Well, it's projected that this will stop gas flaring and all that. So.
Gas flaring is for this end bit. It's for the end side. We've heard it to stop gas flaring for over, even right from the time of Obasanjo.
Yeah. This is, at the end of the day, it's a leadership issue at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right.
Where do we
So
Where do we go from
imagine United Arab Emirates, a country with a total population of 10 million. About 1.5 of them are actually locals. Is the one raising 25 billion for mostly African to do business. What is in United Arab Emirates is sand
Mostly
and
desert.
sun.
Mostly desert, yeah, for the most part.
Sand and sun.
There is more than sand and
How
sun.
many?
And we have
There's a lot of
There's
heads.
heads. There's a lot of heads. Yeah, good one. Yeah, there's a lot of heads there.
so you can imagine. And I think we need to invest in heads here.
Yeah.
Really.
But I still want to go with Chooks. We have heads here.
Oh,
it's
goodness.
it's just electing
Oh my God.
the right head. I believe.
No, but yeah, I agree with
We have
I
good-
agree with
good
Doctor.
people, sound
I
people.
agree with Doctor. See, the leadership is a sample of the population.
Yet
Many
we
of us-
we have problematic heads.
We are no.
But the heads are
most
there.
of us are also problematic.
Of course, yes,
Us,
because
the population.
it's a subset of the whole set.
And
We have
that's
heads,
why it's
problematic
going to,
heads.
it's going to be very hard for all of us to even band together and say we want to elect the best of us, because many of us are not even good enough to select
Look
the
at it. Chooks just asked, who signed? You remember the P&ID case?
Oh, don't take us back to bad news.
Our president was on a sick bed where some people forged the signature,
And denied initially.
collecting 100 million naira and signed out our destiny. See, let's not be, I don't want to be economical with some, truth.
It's the
I
reality.
like to be as plain as possible. Because when we know what our problems are, then we can begin to tackle the problem. I was in a forum recently, and I was asking a small question. I'm not even talking about somebody who is occupying an elected office. I'm talking about some of us who they see you in the morning, you wear suit, you go out, and you come back. They are not even sure how much you are earning, and check the number of our account number that are coming on your phone. Send me 5,000. Can I get 20,000? Now you are sitting here. You are not in government yet. Now imagine what happens if you occupy government, the kind of pressure you will get. I have interactions with people who are elected. Sometimes they are sick. The wife wants to deliver, they send a message to the honorable. Children want to pay school, they send message to the honorable. They want to do launching in church, message to the honorable. And if the honorable is not sending, they start to blackmail him that is not doing well. So these are the things that we face. In short, one of my guys said something.
When you say you face, as in you in political...
Yes. He said something. He said when he was in the US for 10 years, if he goes to visit a family and he wants to leave, he puts his hands in the pocket and give $100 to the children in the family And they say, for what? We don't need it. Until he came back home. And he said, go and visit family, and he want to go out. And they are asking him, Uncle, are you going?
No, but he has the right to say, yes, I'm going.
Are you really going?
I'm actually going.
Are you coming back again? No. It is the pressure that, I'm not even talking about public office. I'm talking about people who are doing their own private hustling that you face in the face of the community, of everybody that is around you, that sees you as their breadwinner. And this is why when you see there are stories all over the space here where even younger brothers who refuse to be hardworking kill their elder brother so that they can inherit his property. These are stories we tell around us. You see it in the whole movie, it looks like if it is just something that is fabricated, but they are all real.
Excuse me.
Right.
That's our reality.
We got here from this oil pipeline.
All right. It's Souq Business Landscape. Before we progress to our third story, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Souq Business Landscape. I'm still here, so let's take our last story for today. American missionary becomes first U.S. Pope in history. The Catholic Church has made history by choosing its first ever Pope from the United States, Robert Francis Prevost, a 69-year-old priest from Chicago who worked for many years as a missionary in Peru. Was elected on May 8, 2025. He chose the name Pope Leo the 14th, I beg your pardon, when white smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel. It signaled that a new pope had been chosen. Now, thousands of people in St. Peter's Square cheered, some crying with joy. The new pope came out on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and greeted the crowd with words, "Peace be with you," speaking in Italian and Spanish, but not English. Pope Leo XIV has spent much of his life helping people in Peru, where he also became a citizen. His strong connection to Latin America helped he ease concerns about choosing a pope from the United States, which never happened before due to the fears of giving the country more power in the church. Pope Francis had trusted his wife, Pope Francis had trusted him with one of his church's most important jobs in 2023, leading office that chooses bishops around the world. Now, in January 2025, Francis made him a cardinal, putting him in a strong position to be considered for pope after Francis' resignation. Now, since his election, world leaders have congratulated Pope Leo XIV on his new role. Messages of support and celebration have come from presidents, prime ministers, and religious leaders, many raising his lifelong commitment to service, peace, and unity. They say his global background makes him a powerful symbol of hope for the people everywhere. So I'll start with Chooks. What does this mean for the entire Vatican?
What it means for the Vatican and for the Catholics. What it means for Catholics is that they have a new pope. Short and simple. For Vatican, I think this is one of those new era times where we get to see an American being the head of the Vatican. Is more of a country, apart from the religious side to it. And we've seen a whole lot of publications that we are not too sure whether it's true or not, and we're not going to allude to that for now. But we wish him the best. We wish the Catholic Church the best. And we really want to see peace in where peace is supposed to be, and him speaking against things that he's supposed to speak against. And we don't want to see someone that will stand on the fence. Take a side.
Moyo.
I mean, this is a big deal. 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church. Never has there been an American pope. So, I mean, it's, we know how America is. So this is going to take the Catholic Church a little bit more mainstream, so to speak. And also, I mean, again, I'm not a Catholic, but there are 20 million Catholics in Nigeria, so I'm sure they're happy that, you know, at least if they've selected a pope and we can move on. And also his, I would say that his missionary work, you know, they did say he has more of a global, you know, worldview. I think that would mean a lot for especially third world countries and stuff like that, which we are a part of, you know, so that might be useful to us and whatnot. I wish him the best of luck. It's not an easy job for anybody, and I hope he does great for us.
All right, so Doctor, coming to you, an American Pope, do you think there will be any U.S. influence towards the Vatican?
Well, I don't see any such influence, and I think it's important for us to even understand the reality of his choice. Number one, he was not even among those who were rated to be elected because of his quiet nature and the rest of it, somebody who really speaks. But there's something that's fundamental that we must understand from the choice of Pope Prevost and the title he has taken, Pope Leo XIV. And I think important that people must also understand what this stands for. This stands for a very strong church institution, which is likely and deeply going to be anti-state, and hugely. Two things that we must take home away from Leo XIV. Number one, he's an intellectual of the Augustinian order. That is what he is. And I think it's also the first time for any pope to be elected from the Augustinian order. Now, if you understand the theology and the doctrine and the teachings of Augustine of Hippo, you can begin to speculate how the Vatican is going to look like in the years to come. The man who he names himself after was the one who actually called the Council of Chalcedon in 1451 AD, when, of course, the church was so divided over the nature and the person of Christ. And then, of course, Leo called a council of the church. The whole bishops and the whole world came together in the city of Chalcedon, and then they took a decision to say this is what the church is. And that, of course, led to the polarization of the church. A lot of people didn't believe in it, and of course the church asked them to go because they were seen to be heretical because of the teaching that they embodied at that time. And so when you look at the nature of the church and state today, there's so much heretic or heresy in the church. And so when somebody comes to say, well, I am Leo, you know from the word go, he is anti-heresy. And those heresies that has permeated all the areas are the things that is going to have intellectual debate all around. And I think that is, of course, for me, bringing back orthodoxy to the Roman Catholic Church. And that is what it means for Vatican. That we're going to go back to where we are coming from and all the errors that needs to be corrected, and the way those arguments were debated under Pope Leo I in Chalcedon, this same you're going to experience as, of course, Pope Leo XIV assumed office. And this, again, you see the polarization, peace to the world. And we hope that that peace will come. But the truth of the matter is that it's going to take side, and that, of course, it doesn't matter whether it's in America. There are so many things that are happening in America that, of course, the Catholic Church are not cool with.
Yes. Yeah.
He will be an anti-abortionist, and the Democrats won't like him for that.
Yes.
And that's why you see that, of course, Donald Trump came out to say, well, oh, thank God it's an American. It came by surprise, but we're happy, and I'm happy to meet with him so that we can have that conversation, because conservatism is what is going to characterize his reign. And you see, it's different from the outgone Pope Francis,
yes, Francis, yeah,
whose oath was to say, how do we minister to the poor? But this man is for church institution, and a strong church institution that defends its doctrines and belief. And I think those are the things that we must take away from the election of Provost yesterday.
All right, so 2 questions I would like to ask. There has been this speculation of whether this new pope might or is signifying Western dominance. Secondly, just like you rightly said, he's a conservative. Some have said he belongs to the Republican Party, and he has strong, or he might have strong convictions which might run foul of the LGBTQ community. What are your thoughts?
And that's exactly the point I've made. Yeah. He's not a Republican, he's not a politician. He left America years ago to go to Peru to go do ministry, and then from Peru to Rome. So he's not an American. He's a Roman Catholic.
That's his identity.
That is who he is. Yeah. And what he's about is those doctrine that the Roman Catholicism preaches. He's going to enforce it and ensure that the church that has become so weak and is not having voice in social issues, that the voice of the church is going to be heard. Now, when you hear him praying and speaking to mission and evangelism, that's exactly what it means, that the world needs to be re-evangelized, even including America. So it's not about being somebody who is politically affiliated, but it's somebody who has been cooked in the pot of the doctrine and the teaching of Augustine of Hippo, who feels that, yes, human beings can't save themselves, they need help to be saved. And of course, and the only way to be saved is to receive the grace that comes from God. But the church must stand solidly to enforce those teachings so that the souls of those who are going to perish can themselves be saved.
Can I ask a question? And I hope nobody attacks me for this. But do we need the church's voice to be any louder than it already is?
Do we need
the church's voice to be any louder than it already is?
Well, yes, we do. We do. And that is very, very important. You see, because there's no way we can talk about social equality, for example, financial inclusion, government of the earth, without the voice of the church. Now, the voice that you think that the church is having, which is the noise around, that are actually not built around theological understanding, which, of course, again, gets back to the era of the weak point of the Roman Catholicism, when during Leo XII, the sale of indulgence was predominant, which is to say that the church was looking for fun. And of course, there was this teaching that, of course, if you drop a coin on the offering bag, and the soul of your father or mother or brother who was somewhere in purgatory can leap out from purgatory and get into heaven. And so a lot of people were dropping money. And of course, hoping that the soul of their beloved could move from near hell to a heavenly state. But unfortunately, again, it took another Catholic, Reverend Martin Luther King, who was a theologian, that said, look, we're not saved by money, we're saved only by grace. And this is what led to the Reformation movement that brought about Protestantism, which became like a challenge to the Pope until the Vatican Council of 1964 came to say, well, some of all this teaching, we must find a way to get rid of them and see how we can build a church that has a voice that can be heard. The challenge here is the fact that when heresy is in the church, the church struggles against itself. And that's why if you read history, you hear about the era of crusades by the church, the era of inquisition by the church. What were they trying to do was to see how to sift heresy away from the church. And this, of course, took toll on humans.
Are those things you would support, like the crusades? Are those things you would support?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't support crusade.
Okay, good.
I don't support
because again, this is why I say, do we really need their voices to be any louder? Because I don't think the first thing they have to do is even just clean up, all their theologies and all their whatever it is, they need to clean all of that up. Because you cannot come here and tell me that if I drop money, somebody is going to leap out of purgatory, and there is nothing to back that up. There's no spiritual, but followers now. Followers will just follow this.
Yeah,
thing.
but that is why we need the authentic voice of the gospel to speak for itself.
And you believe that he is an authentic voice of the gospel?
He is likely to be the voice of orthodoxy, and that's the point I'm making.
Okay.
And if he, by the things he has taught and professed, now has the opportunity as the new pope to implement, that of course will clean up the heart and the mind of over 1.4 billion people. Now you imagine that we have in Nigeria 20 righteous Catholics. Can you imagine how the Nigerian state will look like?
20 righteous Catholics.
20 million righteous Catholics.
Oh, I thought you said 20. I want to say, you mean
20 million.
20 million righteous Catholics.
Yeah.
Okay.
That will bring a lot about transformation. Because the issue that we are talking about, the issue of corruption, that we have all had to argue on this table earlier on, they all boil down to the fallen nature of man. And if the fallen nature of man is not recovered, then we cannot see the end to corruption. It can only grow and get bigger and fatter.
Are we blaming people's guilt, sin, corruption, and stealing public funds on fallen nature of man?
Oh yes.
No, it's just a fallen nature of man. You can a pass. You have a pass.
Oh yes.
I don't know if you have a pass, but it is the reality.
Hold on. Before we go to reality, let's also implement punishments, punitive measures. When you decide to fall your nature of man and you dip your hand in a pot that is not yours, send the person to the gallows.
But you see, this is the challenge.
And have more righteous people.
This is the challenge. You see, it's not about killing people.
I'm not saying kill the person. I'm just saying
it's not about
send him to the gallows.
It's not about punishment. Yeah. You see, the truth of the matter is that
there is no punitive measure in Africa. That is why people keep stealing. That is why the person outside this continent will make you do things that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, I understand what everybody's saying. I understand. He's saying that the reason why people are so prone to corruption and our moral compasses are so broken is because of the fallen nature of man.
Okay,
but I'm not saying that the
question?
Catholic Church are the ones that are, or the churches are the ones that are going to fix that. I believe that if there is discipline and there are consequences for actions.
No.
That's what I believe. Because I know that the people that are not religious.
It's not consequence. You just need to read mass verbal comparison.
See, I don't care if people are immoral, right? But what I know is that if there is discipline, people sit up.
No, but you cannot be disciplined by yourself.
No, I think, okay.
Yes, you cannot be disciplined by yourself. And this is one fact that all of us must take to heart. Now, when you look, for example...
We have to first define discipline.
No, discipline by whatever measure you want to define it. Okay. Let me tell you what it is. If Olumide here can help himself, he'll be a better version of himself.
I should be able to help myself.
But you see, the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of things that you would have, which of course you cannot, because by yourself you cannot. And I think this is the espouser, and these are the philosophies that we're going to take from St. Augustine that are actually translated to Leo I, and of course from which the Pope is actually drawing his strength from as he around the papacy. The point I'm making is this: when you do a comparison between Europe of Renaissance and Reformation and the Catholic Church, this is publicly documented. You can read the Protestant ethics by Max Weber and understand how the ethics of the Protestants, which of course were espoused by John Calvin, by Martin Luther King and Zwingli in Switzerland, in Germany, that spread through the entire of Europe, brought in a level of discipline that actually led to the Industrial Revolution. So it took the church discipline to bring about the Industrial Revolution. So which means some of the things that we enjoy today, that Max Weber was able to document them, that it was because of the ethics of the Protestant that Reformation was successful. Because at a point, you see people like Martin Luther or John Calvin preaching in the street that if you don't work, you cannot eat. And in Europe, there was no work anywhere. And people were wondering and said, if you don't work and you eat, that is a sin. And you go to hell. And people were wondering how they can escape here. What did they do? They found job for themselves. Volunteerism became the order of the day in Europe. People were needing to qualify for a meal, to go and sweep the street, clean the gutter, maintain traffic without being paid so that they can be qualified for a meal. What that did was that the dignity of labor was restored in Europe. And what you have, high productivity that led to prosperity. So if the world most experienced prosperity...
We can't try that.
Who told you you can't try it here?
Why not?
It was there before. Okay. You've read Things Fall Apart, right? Yes. Good. So did we have lazy people in our cultures? Were they encouraged? No.
What about now?
Good, because of what we have decided to fill our heads with. You left the farm and went to school, forgetting the farm then was also school on its own. And what did they do? They've turned you into a clerk for somebody else's jobs. So if we have crime and punishment, if you steal a goat, you lose a leg.
You know somebody...
People will report.
Why your punishment?
Somebody take us recently. And he said if you are between 40 years and 60 years, you are the most miserable person on earth. Because you served your father. Now you are serving your children. And there's no other generation that has gone through that, except that generation between 40 and 60. Because those days, your father didn't care how you get to school. You go to school yourself. Today, mothers are following their children to NYC. Oh yes, that's how depraved that we have become.
But doctor...
So we need discipline to be able to move from where we are to where we are expected. Now people are thinking that there's a way government can feed everybody, which is not true. And people can't gather in places of worship and tell people that if you pray for 24 hours, miracle money will come, miracle alert will come. These are heresies. And until we contend with these heresies, that they are not true, and they are not promises of God anyhow, then we will not be able to find a sane society where discipline can happen. So what we need to do is to return first and foremost orthodoxy. And once orthodoxy is returned to the system, then we can talk about discipline, and then we can talk about prosperity, we can talk about productivity.
Wow, that is a whole lot. But Doc, from what you have said now, what you are basically saying is that human beings have no control of themselves.
We do have control of ourselves.
But that Doc is saying is something different.
We do now, when God, I believe in God, when God created man, he gave us a choice. Free will. He gave us, if you call it free will, he gave us a choice.
Yes.
So it's what? Choice, consequences. Decisions, consequences.
Yes.
And the last part of it. Now, the truth is this. I am a Christian, 100%. But now let's tell ourselves the basic truth. God is very merciful. Our God is very merciful. If, for example, the El-Rufai swore by Ayelala when he mounted
we will have seen the accountability.
I don't know if you understand.
Now young people are going to Ayelala to collect money.
They are not going to collect
let's not do that. Let's not go there. Because the old people of today were young people too, and they did that too. They also did that. So
nobody is dying.
No, hold on.
Nobody is dying.
Can I explain something? Now, there is food and there is food. There is food that is meant for that is a shrine, and there is food doesn't mean you can't eat it. David went to the temple when his men were hungry, and he took food from and took whole bread from and ate. Did his men die? No, but some other person will try it and died. Let's get to know those particular sides of it. That the food is on a shrine doesn't mean you can't eat it and you die. No. But now there was some discipline at that particular point in time, because if you cross this line, something will happen. Let me give you an example where I'm from. The palm tree, as easy as that palm tree you're saying, the newest root of it, if somebody wants to call you out where I'm from, all he needs to do is to go and plug that thing.
Where's the palm tree right now?
I think he's saying
any palm tree. Anywhere, even the one in your compound.
I think that's it.
Really?
All he needs is just to go and plug that thing. That is all he needs to do.
Can I call money?
Hold on. Do you know what will happen? When he does it, they will call you and tell you that this was happening. This person, Mr. A, Mr. B, did this, and he said you did this. It doesn't matter where you are. Even if you be in London, you will come and answer to that thing.
Have you seen it work?
I don't need to see it work. I have seen people die from it.
You see, this is the problem.
Now, hold on, sir. I'm coming. Now we know that there is crime and there is punishment. And people are lying, is it not? Now, we've so bastardized our culture on that side Now we also say, okay, now we are Christians. And now we are preaching, just like he says, heresies. People climb on pulpit and tell you, raise your phone, and you get miracle alert. How?
It's not even, see, that's why I always say.
I don't know if you understand. So we should preach the truth.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is that when humans are faced with difficulties or challenges, you see, you become vulnerable.
That's true.
And it is that vulnerability that makes your decision to be very weak. And which is, of course, the real essence of what Christianity should represent. Take, for example, the author of Hebrews says, Jesus, because of the joy that was ahead of him, had to endure some pain. Now, afterwards, he entered into glory. Now, what it means is that for us to be able to endure that pain of suffering, that pain of denial, the pain of refusal, there needs to be a spirit actually inside of you, and that's what matters. But you see, all these things you allude to, they were here when the colonial masters came in and abducted my Oba from Benin, and he died in Calabar. All the evil forests that we say nobody could enter, they cleared the evil forest and they built churches on it, and nothing happened. You see, let's not play sentiment or ethnic card, I guess, because African talks about, oh, there are some certain things we can. What came to Africa, we were conquered. Yeah. In the midst of these things we are talking about. Now, what conquered us?
The power that conquered us was stronger than us.
Yes.
Because the power that conquered us was not them. The power that conquered us was us.
What was that power?
We fought ourselves.
No.
Yes.
What was that power?
We were used against ourselves.
See, take for example, in Switzerland alone, you hear when people use the language witch hunting, for example.
Yeah.
That was the state of Switzerland. They were bedeviled because everybody became a witch and they were killing themselves until the power of the gospel.
It was the church that
did
that.
Yes, there was a Roman Catholic church that was very weak. The church that was collecting indulgence.
Okay. I just wanted
until the true voice of the church came through Martin Luther, John Calvin, Zwingli.
My point is that the church is not perfect.
No, we don't expect the church to be perfect. We only expect the church to profess what is true and what is right, so that people are not living by falsehood, which is what heresy brings. I said to people, when I was in my development class in Grass of Lagos, I was just saying to my professor, the truth we need to engage as Africans is to understand that behind every civilization, there's a spirit around it. In the West, it was the Christian spirit. If you go to China, it is the spirit of the Confucians.
What about Nigeria?
Now that is the worst part of it.
The spirit of no head.
We have no good Christianity, no good Islam,
no tradition,
and we have lost the tradition. So we have lost everything, and that's why we are floating. So we need true religion, really. We need true religion, and it's only when true religion is enthroned that people are governed from within. The people are governed from within, not from without. Now, what he's saying is that people are governed from without. So what happens if no man is there? You go back to your old state. But when you are governed from within, which is what religion is supposed to provide, you find that you can be more disciplined. And then, of course, we can see better and collective prosperity as we move forward. So I wish the Pope very well, and I hope that in this adventure, he's able actually to champion all the ideals of Leo I that was gleaned from St. Augustine of Hippo.
All right, so in just a closing, one minute, I'll start from John. Looking at Pope Leo XIV, let's bring it down to Nigeria. Do you think this new Pope would bring any change in Africa? Talking about racism, gender inequality, poverty and all that. Do you think he would, just like you said earlier on, that he would not sit on the fence?
Yes, I really don't want him to sit on the fence. He should always take a side, pick a side. Let's even be on different sides. That's not an issue. But this is where I always stand. We shouldn't be looking for a savior outside this country.
True.
The Pope is not going to be our savior. The Pope no matter what he does or the project he tries to initiate for Africa or for Nigeria, he is not going to be our savior. We are going to be our own savior. And the day we start taking our people, ourselves, and our country serious, then we'll get better. The Catholics in Nigeria, they can't be more Pope than the Pope there.
True.
So they have to be the Catholics here first, be the best here first, then it will affect every other person.
Moyo,
I mean, again, I did say earlier there are approximately 20 million Catholics in Nigeria, probably the most in Africa. So there should be some focus from the Vatican here as well. We have a lot of dioceses here, and I hope that whatever volume of the voice that the church eventually has, that the voice helps to, make the world a better place, interfaith peace building, better church leadership and whatnot. So I wish him the best. I too am a Christian, I'm just not a Catholic, so I support him. And best of luck to him.
Doctor, how do you feel this Pope would really affect Africa? I mean, he is a voice of authority, so to some level, he should be able to influence some decisions.
Well, I think once you have a leader who speaks out and people know where he stands, it's easy for people to relate with such a leader.
Yes.
And I think that he become much more outspoken, especially with respect to the internal wrath, as Moyo has said earlier. You see, because if the church can reform itself from within, we will see a whole lot of change in our environment.
Yes.
So we can define and say this is what is Christianity and this is what is not. And once we get to that threshold where everybody understands the true value of what the Word of God portends for us, it will mean a lot for us. And of course, because he is a president of a country, we are seeing that the Vatican as a country will also have a voice, better representation in the United Nations, and all the Papa Nuncios that are in all the countries of the world will speak for the Pope, and that voice can be loud enough to change and reverse the ills that in society as of today.
Thank you very much, Doctor. This has been a very robust conversation, and live from here, Souq News Television. This is where we'll call it a wraps on Souq Business Landscape. Till we meet next week, do have a lovely weekend.